Welcome to the second video of this section. This video is titled Factors and Agents. In this video, we are going to learn more about the components of an economy, as they are applicable to all economies. The first topic we will learn about is that of factors of production. The distinction here between renewable and non-renewable resources is important. The final learning objective is to understand economic agents and their objectives. First, let's just recap what we covered off in the last video. There, we introduced the idea of scarcity. Scarcity arises when we have finite resources that allow us to only produce so much, yet we have infinite wants, meaning we want to consume much more. This led to our three basic questions of what to produce, how to produce, and for whom to produce. We looked at the example of a small, simple village economy to make these theories feel more real. We started by looking at the finite resources side, before moving on to the infinite wants side. Let's take the same approach and look at each in more detail. We stated that the finite resources side relates to production. You will remember that production is the process of turning the limited resources we have into goods and services. Economists use the phrase, factors of production, to describe the inputs that allow production to take place. Factors of production are divided into four types. Land. Land and raw materials, such as mineral deposits, are naturally occurring inputs into the production process. If you were to work on anything to produce a good or service, then you would need land on which the production would take place. For example, this could be farming land, or land on which a factory is built. Labor. This is the physical or mental input provided by humans into the production process. People are an important part of the production process. This could be an architect designing a house, or a farmer tilling the land. Capital. Capital is generally defined as inputs that themselves have been produced. Using our village scenario, a tractor is clearly the obvious example here, as it would need to have been made in a factory, but it is itself now an input for farming the land. Entrepreneurship. This relates to the ability to combine factors of production and take risks to establish new ventures. In our example, it could be the farmer himself who decided to farm the land and make money. In the wider world today, it could be someone like Elon Musk, who has launched a range of electric vehicles under the brand of Tesla. So these four factors of production are relevant components on the finite resources side of our problem. There is one distinction to bear in mind in relation to resources. This distinction separates resources into the two groups renewable and non-renewable resources. By renewable resources, we mean those that can be replenished. An example is water, which if depleted in rivers and lakes, may be replenished by rainfall. Other examples include solar, wind, and wood. Non-renewable resources, however, are resources which cannot be replenished. Examples of such resources include fossil fuels, such as oil and gas, as well as coal. The pricing of such resources is dependent on the stock and flow of these resources. As they are depleted, their scarcity rises and prices increase. Let's move on to the infinite wants side of the equation. When considering infinite wants, the ways of analyzing components of the economy can get quite complex. While this is certainly not the whole answer, being aware of key economic agents will help. What do we mean by economic agents? This phrase is used to summarize any individual or group of individuals that engages or takes part in the economy, whether that is production or consumption. Because of scarcity, economic agents have to make choices to maximize their satisfaction. So let's take a look at the main agents that exist. These are individuals, firms, and the government. Modern economies are more complex than this, but having an idea of these key ones will help you understand motives in the economy. So let's look at these in turn. What are the main objectives and choices for individuals? Individuals, or consumers as they can also be known, like to maximize the satisfaction they get from obtaining or consuming goods and services. Economists call this satisfaction utility. So we can say that one objective that individuals have is to maximize their utility. How can individuals do this? Well, if they work they can earn money and buy more goods, or better goods. However, to earn more, they may have to choose to work more if their wage remains the same. They will then lose leisure time, which they may value highly. So one trade-off for individuals may be between work and leisure. Let's take a look at the next economic agent, which in our structure is a firm, another name for a company or business. The standard assumption is that firms, or producers as they can be known, wish to maximize their profits. In economics we often use the Greek letter, pi, as a symbol for profits. This is clearly just one potential objective, as some firms choose to prioritize revenue. For those that are unaware, let's explain the difference between the two terms of revenue and profit. Revenue is equal to the money you get from selling your goods. Profit, on the other hand, is equal to the revenue minus any costs you have for creating and/or delivering those goods. Some firms might be better described as not-for-profit organizations. Such an entity may choose to focus on a social objective, such as providing care for the elderly. This doesn't mean they don't charge. It just means they charge enough to cover their costs. This is because their objective is provision of care with no interest in generating profit. So, going back to the main point, a firm could have a number of objectives, but they are commonly assumed to wish to maximize profits. If this is the case, then what choices do they have? Imagine that you are an owner of a business that makes lemonade. You have been running a profitable business with your trusted blenders. However, these machines are quite old and are outside of their warranty period. Would you choose to take the profits home from your business and spend it on a good holiday, or would you rather spend it on new machines? Let's take a look at the third economic agent, which in our structure is the government. The government is typically the largest economic agent in most economies. A government can have many objectives, such as economic growth, low and stable inflation and full employment among others. Some of these terms need greater explanation, so we will come back to these later. Let's focus on an easy one for now by considering the objective of full employment. A government may wish that all of its citizens of working age are gainfully employed so that its economy is productively efficient. To do this it has many choices. One simple one relates to where it should invest to secure jobs. Should a government incentivize a global car manufacturer to set up a factory in its country so that citizens can be employed there? Or should the government spend money educating and training citizens so that they are ready for the jobs of tomorrow? We can see that the objectives that economic agents prioritize will affect the choices they make. Production via the factors of production of land, labor, capital and entrepreneurship will adapt to meet the consumption side and the objectives of economic agents. These building blocks or components of the economy can help us to analyze economic events. Let's recap. In this video, we have introduced various components of an economy as they are applicable to all economies. First, we introduced the factors of production. These are land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship. We then made the distinction between renewable and non-renewable resources, which is about whether they can be replenished or not. The final learning objective was to introduce economic agents and their objectives. We learned about how this may vary, but that in the classical model, individuals maximize utility, whereas firms maximize profits. Governments tend to have a number of objectives and have to prioritize.